Hello everyone, this is Michael Teo here, the founder of Thriving Talent, serial entrepreneur, and of course, Globetrotter. Welcome to our Influence Mastery Summit, and today we have brought you only the best all the way from the United States to join us here. And it gives me great honor to welcome Mr. Sam Tsui, internet sensation, YouTube hottest star, as a lot of magazines would call him, and of course, someone who believed in his dream, developed the charisma, the confidence to pursue a cutting-edge career, I would say, a new trending career, becoming a YouTuber, having built 3 million over subscribers, hardcore followers, have worked with the world's largest brands, Coca-Cola, McDonald's, you name it. Sam, thank you so much for joining us here at the Influence Mastery Summit.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here and share a little bit of my story with you.
Amazing. And as all of you would know, for the Influence Mastery Summit, we would gather the best minds to share with you their secrets of how they have actually shot themselves up to the stars and have become very successful in doing it. So Sam, thank you. Sam, to start off our conversation with our learners right now, I'd like to ask you the main question that I usually ask a lot of our top speakers, top educators like yourself.
All right, give it to me.
What is charisma to you?
I think charisma is the ability to communicate your passion. I think and include people in that. You know, I think you can have passion, but charisma is being able to and good at letting other people into that and wanting them to sort of see that passion through your own eyes. And the better, the more charismatic and the better you get at that, I think the more charismatic you are. I think maybe a misconception is that charisma is something that you're just born with, you either have it or you don't. But I think it's a form of communication. I think. So I think it's something you can work on and improve, and it's about connection and communication.
So would you say charisma is pretty much you being sincere, being honest with your intentions about yourself and about how you could add value to people's lives, and I think it naturally comes to you. Would you say that?
I think that's definitely the best kind of charisma, is when it is earnest and when it is letting people in. I think there's like an idea that charisma is just sort of a surface thing and this outward thing. And I think it can be. I think there are people who do have that kind of charisma, but I think the best kind of charisma is that which is letting people in rather than just exuding something. It's being able to show people why you are excited about this or why you're passionate, and including them in that conversation.
You know, Sam, you have built a roaring fan base, 3 million YouTube subscribers, and you're growing rapidly. Your Instagram is amazing. I mean, you dominate social media.
I try.
There you go.
You're very kind.
No, it's the fact, guys. But here's the interesting part here, Sam. For us to put ourselves out on social media, in our everyday lives, you know, either we want to take up a new leadership position, either we want to do or participate in a new project, we need to develop confidence, right? How did you develop your confidence to go out millions of people every day hearing you? You know, Sam here sings the most amazing song covers. You know, he has acted in a few short films as well, you know, commercials. So how do you develop your confidence? Because that's very important for a lot of our learners right now today. How do you develop that?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've always been a performer ever since I was a kid. I loved to sing and perform and put on little shows. So I always had that kind of desire to entertain and put myself out there in that way. But you're right, with social media and sort of that direction that my career has taken, there's many other components to that. So putting yourself out there on social media is really becoming vulnerable a little bit and letting people in to not just saying, this is what I do, this is my talent, but also here's a little bit of who I am and here's a little bit of my life. And that, I think, initially didn't come as naturally to me, because I came at it from the mindset of, oh, I'm a musician and all I have to share is my art and my talent. But in today's world, I think what people who are watching social media stars, they want to be let in and they want to see sort of who you are and vulnerability, which I think can be a little trickier to put out there and does require a certain level of confidence. But at the end of the day, I think having sort of a product you believe in, which in my case is my art and my work and you know my performance, and really believing in that and loving it and loving what you do and caring about it, that's the way I cultivate that confidence is if it doesn't start with a love of what you're doing or what you're making, you're never going to be able to fully embrace and fully show that. And once you love what you're doing, right, there's nothing to confidence because that's what you believe. You're saying this is great, and I'm proud of this, and I love it, and so then it just comes naturally, I think.
So would you say, if you allow me to summarize, Sam,
Yeah.
3 main points here. How do we cultivate confidence? Number 1, it's the ability to be vulnerable, is to be who you are, so that you will be able to gain fans of people who love what you do. You may have the naysayers, but they're just a portion of it.
Sure.
And then you'll always have people who have differing opinions.
Of course.
So number 1 is to be comfortable with yourself, to be vulnerable. Number 2 is to really love your product.
Yeah.
I mean, you really love your art. I mean, my staff in my office in Thriving Talents, they're all young people, and they absolutely adore you. They were like, you sing some of the covers that Sam has sang with his duets, and it's even better than the original singers. I won't mention who, but that's what all the young people say in my office,
Thank you.
And the third thing that you mentioned, I think it's about repetition, because you stated that you started off as an entertainer when you were really young, and you have that passion, and you keep doing it over and over again, despite all the pitfalls, and you just keep on getting better and better every time. So that would be the 3 formula, I would say, to raise your confidence. Would you agree?
I would agree, yeah, for sure.
Nice. My next question would be, what is a fulfilling career for you?
Yeah.
What's a fulfilling career? How does it look like? How does it feel like?
I think we're all still trying to figure that out, everyone to a certain extent. But no, I mean, I think the way I'm gauging it is being able to do what brings me joy and what excites me, and to continue to be able to do that in a way that is not only exciting for me and benefiting me, but that is in some way helping and impacting others, which I mean, I know even though at times it can seem that music and entertainment is kind of trite or surface level, I think I definitely having interactions with the people who are listening to and watching my stuff.
Oh, very nice.
There are a lot of people who use music and use art to sort of
inspire,
to work through things, or not feel so alone, and there's a lot of really powerful things that art and music can do. And so for me, sort of the fulfilling elements of my career are not only that I love to create what I create, but that it actually is in some way having an impact on other people. And that certainly for in any kind of creative realm, that is like the ultimate goal, I think.
Amazing.
But yeah, and in terms of career, I think it's just finding a way to practically do that and allow myself to continue to do that in whatever way that's constantly growing as I can. Nice.
So 3 more keywords. Sam, you're sharing so much. 3 more keywords I'd like to take back from what you just shared about a fulfilling career. Number 1, it's about being a master in your art, loving what you do. Number 2, I think it's also interesting that we need gratification. I think it's nice when we're able to showcase our services, our products, our talent, and then it helps someone else. Like your music, the short films, the commercials you have been in. I believe that's important, working with the biggest brands in the world. And then the third point I would like to allude us to is when you mention a fulfilling career is also allowing you to grow so that you're able to become a master of your art over and over again.
Right. I think career, that word in and of itself, implies sort of a longevity. You're not just creating something for a week or a month or a year or 2 years. Ideally, it's creating something that is going to span your life, and there's no way to do that by doing just one thing, regardless of what field you're in. Everything is constantly going, constantly changing. Not only are you changing, but whoever is watching or using your service is always changing. So I think thinking of career as sort of a journey rather than just like one thing that you're going to get to, I think is important.
Nice. Sam, we're going to now go on to talk about the early days of your YouTubing, internet trailblazing career. I want you to go back to the time when you decided to record your first cover song, when you decided to take someone else's song and then you sing it, perhaps even make it better. But I want you to go back to that time, and I want you to remember, what were some of the emotions that were going through you? On that day, you decided, this is what I want to do. I'm going to put myself out there to the internet. And the internet could be a place where it's filled with either fans or bullies. People could bully you because of how you sound, how you look. what were some of the emotions
Yeah.
that were going through you? If you could name like 3 top emotions that you could remember,
Sure.
how did you feel on that first day?
Well, I think what's interesting is that like you said, in the trailblazing sense, when I first started, there really were no examples of people who were doing similar things. I started many years ago when YouTube was a very new thing.
Right.
And so there weren't a lot of precedents, and a lot of the journey I've had so far has been figuring things out and sort of without precedent, sort of trying things and seeing what works. And
Right.
and that's been one of the most exciting parts of my career so far, is that it is such a new field and a new world.
Right.
So that's been both one of the fun things and one of the kind of scary things, is that you can't say, how did you do it? Because we're among the first people doing like that.
Yeah.
So when I started, YouTube was a totally different sort of space. There were not people who you could look to and say, oh, this person has had a great career starting here. How do I do that? No one had done that before.
Okay.
So in some senses, that made those early days, I think we benefited from not having a lot of expectations, or not placing too many, right? Because nowadays, I think when people are starting on YouTube or in the digital space, they look to people like me who have built careers and they have an end goal and they're saying, oh, I'm trying to get to that.
Yeah.
And I think in some ways that can be really helpful, because you have a sort of a roadmap a little bit.
Yes.
But there was something really beneficial, I think, about not having as clear a roadmap and saying, you know, this is a new platform. How can I use the possibilities were kind of limitless in a certain sense,
Right.
And so I put less pressure on myself going into it, which I think was one of the early benefits. So one of the things I felt was, I guess just sort of optimism and hope. I think in a way that, because I didn't know exactly where the journey would lead,
Right.
I wasn't sure that this was going to be my route to my career. I thought this was, let's do this. Let's have an open mind. So sort of an optimism, hope, open-mindedness.
Right.
That's one thing.
Yeah.
I think another thing was, I think cautiousness too. You know.
All right. Cautious. Yeah.
I think knowing, even at the time, even though the internet was for music was kind of a new thing. The idea of being a music creator on YouTube was a new thing. But even so, I think I was just aware that, okay, if I'm putting something out there, I want it to represent me in a way that I feel good about. And so maybe cautiousness is not the exact word, but just a mindfulness.
Yes, mindfulness.
Mindfulness that what I'm putting out, no matter, even at the time, I didn't know that millions of people eventually would be watching me, even if 100 people watched me, knowing that I wanted to take ownership of what I was putting out into the world and be proud of every single thing I did. So that was something I was definitely aware of, even in the early days.
Very nice.
Before there was a big audience.
You were already an artist when you started.
Yeah.
Because, artists don't put up crap, They always have that certain, I wouldn't say reference, because I think like you started in YouTube, it was during the early days.
Yeah.
But I think it was good, like the first emotion you mentioned, where you didn't pressure yourself too much.
Mm-hmm.
I think analysis paralysis. Sometimes you pressure yourself too much, and you don't get from point A to point B, fearing of making mistakes. But as an artist, I think it's good that you have set certain expectation, not what others expect of you, but what you expect of yourself.
Yeah.
Like if you were to roll out a cover song, it has to be good. It has to be at least, I would say, friendly to the ears.
Yeah.
And you have been doing amazing on that. Would you say so?
I don't know, but I've been trying at least to do that and continue to make stuff that I'm proud of. And I think a third thing would be just confidence going back. Even though it was a way smaller scale when I first started.
Oh yeah.
That didn't mean that I didn't think that the music I was making was great, and I believed in what I was doing.
Yep.
Even before I imagined that it would sort of take me where it has taken me. I had a real love for and a belief in my art.
Nice. So it's really about believing in what you do, because I think there's that ancient quote that says, you can't love someone else unless you start loving yourself. And in the salesman term, you can't sell something that you don't believe in it.
Yeah.
So I think at least when you started, you have that confidence to say, let me try. There is no reference. I'm trying to manage the expectation of what others have of myself. I'm going to roll things out well, and then I'm going to have fun in the process.
Yeah.
And it's about being in the flow, right? That's amazing. Now, for those of you who are tuning in for the Influence Mastery Summit, we actually prepared some very powerful questions. I hope you're ready, Sam. Here we go.
I'm ready.
To guide your learning with us, okay? And again, today, really, we're talking about how did Sam Tsui right here, internet installation, start off. how did he build a massive, hardcore, roaring fan following of 3 million subscribers online? That's amazing. So we're going to dive into that. And we're going to still talk about the early days of your career. Now, putting yourself out there for the first time online via YouTube, did you get rejections or criticism? And if you did, how did you handle that, if any?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the great things about the way I started and the digital platforms are that there was initially, there's less of a sense of personal rejection in that. Like, so I imagined I would go into showbiz and I imagined I would do Broadway or these things.
You imagined?
That was sort of my plan. That was the goal.
Wow, so you had a visual, like you visualized.
And yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I saw that as the way that my career might go. And,
wow.
And in that, you audition, and that's a very much, you go in trying to get this part, and then you put yourself out there, and then you either get it or you don't. And that's a lot of rejection that one has to deal with in those kinds of scenarios. Yeah. What was amazing about what I got to do is that because with a YouTube channel, with making your own content and kind of with being more of a sort of entrepreneur in that sense,
yes.
You can kind of just keep putting stuff out there, and it's less a sense of with each thing, oh, if that didn't blow up right away, it doesn't feel like rejection, and you have a little more ownership of it, and so you can kind of have the freedom to just keep going, keep pushing. Okay, that video didn't get that many views, doesn't matter, I'm just gonna move on to the next one. So even if you're not experiencing an initial like burst of engagement or success in a traditional sense, I think it allows you, when you have kind of your own ownership of your art in that way, it allows you to sort of keep pushing through and not even engage with the idea of who cares if no one's watching this one or this one, because you have the power to keep creating.
Oh boy, that's powerful.
And that's one of the things I've loved about not just being an entertainer who's relying on big media companies or other people to give me a chance to show what I do. Having your own space and your own avenue for distribution allows you to be the boss. Amazing. And so I've really benefited from that sort of model of working.
So you didn't feel any sadness if people were to reject you during that time? How did you recover from it? So nothing at all, or?
Oh, well, again, there's less of a sense of, because it's not, I'm not seeing the people who are choosing not to click on the video. You know what I mean? I'm only seeing the people and getting the engagement that is exciting. And of course, it's the internet, there's negative comments. Yeah. But I think for some reason I've found it easy to not ever take that too personally.
Amazing.
Which it can, I suppose, can be difficult. But again, I think it all comes down to when you believe in what you're putting out there. Nice. If a negative comment comes, that doesn't really affect me, because I know I love this product and I love what I do. So it doesn't, who cares? You know,
Sam, there was one point you mentioned that really hit a heartstring with me, and you mentioned about ownership. Now, oftentimes, and I think a lot of our learners would agree with this, they would tend to have this mindset where I'm not a business owner, I'm just an employee, how can I gain ownership of my work? I think it's about just you feeling confident, feeling comfortable, and knowing that you're doing your best, and knowing that despite you working with someone, you are still producing your best out to the market. Yeah. And people are going to enjoy the fruits of your labor, I would say. And I think one of the things you talk about is when you gain ownership, and I think it's so powerful when you mention that, because in today's world with technology, I mean, we have been talking a lot about YouTube. My staff in my office got to know you because they're your Instagram followers. Okay. So they follow you on Instagram. It's amazing. And one funny thing is that, all these platforms have now allowed us to be producers. Like you mentioned, you do not need a big radio station or a TV station to give you an opportunity to shine. And I think one thing I really love of what you have done was that you visualize that dream life, that fulfilling career you want. You put in the confidence to take the first step. You went for auditions, and then you took a further step by producing content on your own, leveraging YouTube during that time. And then from there, when you took the first step, you build a following, and now people believe and they know you are charismatic. Because, I mean, come on, the songs that you sing, the messages through the songs that you choose to adopt inspires people. And I think that really helps. Yeah. And I think believing in that, I think that's one of the ways how, and correct me if I'm wrong, Sam, that's one of the ways how you have overcome your rejections. Sure. You wouldn't let them put you down because there's a bigger cause for you out there. Yeah. Would you say so?
Yeah, I think so.
Excellent, excellent. Well, that's my job here, is to summarize, pull out all the golden nuggets from all your life experiences.
Sure.
But thank you, Sam.
Of course.
Moving on. There are literally thousands, or even if I may say millions, of social media enthusiasts who wants to be where you are today.
Sure.
You know, I mean, you're here right there with us here in Malaysia. You're doing a tour. You're meeting all the social media influencers. I heard you're going to have a concert coming up as well. Amazing, you know. And you started off as a YouTube star.
Yeah.
One question though. How did you differentiate yourself from all the other YouTube stars when you first started?
Yeah. Well, as I said before, I think I uniquely benefited. I was among the first wave of people who really began using YouTube and these digital tools as not just kind of a novelty entertainment, but as actually a platform for distribution, for building a sort of brand and building a career. Because early on, you know, YouTube was just a place for home videos and kind of like fun little silly things you watch.
Yeah.
And no one was thinking of it as a place for higher level content or
Right.
you know, high quality content produced specifically for those platforms. So I was among the first, and so at that time, the market wasn't as saturated, and so I was able to get in, and I definitely benefited from that timing a little bit. I think of sort
Right.
of being a trailblazer a little bit, as you said.
Okay.
But I think one of the things that has allowed me to sort of continue to build a career, because there are many people who were among that first wave of creators who maybe are no longer as sort of hot as they were, or their subscribers aren't growing in the same ways.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that I hope I did well was constantly being willing to change.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and just staying abreast and aware.
Yeah.
I think in today's world, especially when you're using digital platforms,
Yes.
they change at such a
Rapid
rapid
rate,
rate
yeah.
in terms of how they're used, what is available, what tools are available, and
Right.
it's all good because more tools are becoming available to us every day to communicate our messages, whatever that may be, whether it's music or whatever.
That's right.
So we're getting more tools, but I think as important as having great product and great art and whatever it is sort of a willingness to learn and be a student and understand how to
that's
use the
powerful.
new tools that you have every day, new tools
Yeah.
to further what your ultimate goal is, which
Yeah.
for me it's sharing my music and sharing my art. So I think that's what's allowed me to continue to have a career at this point, is that, you know, as the years go on, I try to do my best to figure out the best ways to communicate with the new tools.
You know, for someone like your stature, Sam, YouTube superstar, internet sensation, sometimes we let all those noises get to our heads.
Mhm. Oh,
And
yeah,
you
for
talk
sure.
about change. You know, change is the biggest buzzword right here. It's a big key learning. You need to be able to change.
Mhm.
You need
course.
to know that whatever that has worked for you 10 years ago, if you've started 10 years ago, may not work today.
Absolutely.
How did you silence those egoistic voices that would whisper to you and say, "You are Sam Tsui, come on, it takes ages for the other YouTubers to catch up. Just relax." How do you silence
I don't
those
think
little
I ever said
ego?
that. I
You
don't
never
even
said that
think
at
I
all.
felt that.
We're talking about a positive
No.
guy, positively charged Sam. You got a high five for
No,
that, brother.
I definitely. I mean, I think anyone in a creative field definitely has self doubts, but mine were less like less egoistic like that, and more
Right.
just right. There's a desire in any creative person, I think, to share what they're passionate about with anyone
Nice.
who, you know, and try to make as many other people passionate about what you're doing in the same way.
Yes.
So I think, I mean, it all goes back to what we've said many times before already, is that I think having a belief and commitment in the core of what you're doing, because
Right.
that doesn't have to change. You know what I
Right.
mean? I think like if you love what you do and you love your music or whatever it may be, that should in some ways stay the same, you know,
Yes.
because I think that's where you get into I think tricky water, especially in the social media world, when people are only seeking the sort of the numbers and the validation, when there isn't something at the core of what they're doing that they connect with.
Right.
Then I think, and there are many people who are really good at that and just following the trends and just making and creating whatever is popular, and their end goal is just sort of popularity.
Yeah.
And I think that's a strategy.
Yeah.
But I think what has allowed me to sort of like maintain my groundedness and my sanity
There you go.
is that that's not what I'm doing. And what I'm doing is I have something I love, which is my music, and seeing all of the tools as just that, as tools rather than the ends. It's the
Very
means to the end,
nice.
which is sharing what I care about.
Now that's really powerful of what you have shared, Sam. And I think it has allowed you to constantly adapt, evolve. It's because of your willingness to see all these platforms that are available, either technological platforms or even coming to Malaysia, doing a tour right now, as tools to help you share more of your music and your expression and your creativity with people out there. So if you see it as tools, it allows you to change, because tools are supposed to amplify the good work you do instead of challenging you of who you are. Right? Amazing. Now, we have gone on from the early days. Now let's move on to the growth days.
Okay.
Here we go. You have managed to build a large following who's responsive and are your avid fans in your work. I mean, come on, you're here in Malaysia doing a tour. You have a lot of screaming fans here as well. What did you do to build that following? Was that a conscious effort that you have? Did you have like a key performance indicator, like every month I need to have 10,000 followers? How did it happen? Did you have that? Did you set that up, or how did they just keep coming to you?
Yeah, well, I generally try not to have numerical or analytic benchmarks, because I think that, again, as a creative person, will sort of put you into a tailspin of valuing your work by these certain sort of arbitrary metrics, and I think that can be really dangerous. But I think, but the growth was a conscientious effort, in that in the early days, I had a few videos that I, through some combination of timing and luck and also thoughtfulness, all those combinations went in, and it sort of went viral and got a lot of traction, and that was amazing. And at that point, I think I had to make the conscientious effort. Okay, that's amazing, and I'm really excited about that. But it's not just about one viral moment or one viral video. What I want to do is make these people not just fans of this video, but make these people part of my story and fans of what I'm doing. Because I think, especially in the digital age that we're living in, you rely on fans and followers not just to be passive parts of your story, but they really are an active participant in what you're doing. Because the way, without a record label who's spending millions of dollars to advertise your music, what you really rely on is the fans to share your music. That really is the mechanism by which something goes viral. It's inviting the people who are watching in, and having your content be good enough that they say, not only do I want to watch this, but I also want to show the other people in my life that I'm watching this, because it's so good that it will reflect well on me if I share this and make this part of my own story. And so it's really about taking those viral moments I had and saying, okay, I need to now be consistent and show them that the next thing is just as good, if not better, and get them to be a part of the journey, so that as they see my growth, it's really it's part of the whole story that they are an integral part of. So giving them ownership as well of the growth, I think, was a part of the strategy.
Sam, that's an amazing revelation right there. I want to thank you. Bonus question, beyond the paper, how did you do that? How did you involve your fans in your journey? I mean, how did you get them to participate? Like you mentioned, you are not a big record label yet. You don't have millions of dollars to spend on putting out a billboard.
It's not a yet thing. I mean, I think the music world is changing a lot. I'm an independent artist, and tools like YouTube allow me to be an independent artist, yet still tour, release albums, and do all that stuff. So I think a lot of people think of music as you're working toward a record label, but in today's day and age, having a large YouTube following, that's your distribution source, and actually it allows your music to be a lot more creative, and you have ownership. A lot of people who are under big record labels don't get to have ownership of their music because other people are making the decisions. So I think that's important too, is that the digital space has allowed a lot more people to have ownership, both in creative fields and non, of what they're doing. Anyway, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
But I really like how Sam has summed it up. Like, for those of you who are watching right now, if you are thinking, I need to land that top job, I need to be working in those big companies, which is amazing. But knowing that now with technological platforms that we have, you could be your own producer. Like you mentioned, I mean, with the availability of YouTube, Spotify, Instagram, right now big record label companies are changing the way how they treat artists like Sam Tsui.
Right.
You know, and I think you could be your own producer, you could produce your own album and all that. But back to the question.
Yeah, yeah.
How did you get your fans to participate?
Yeah, I think a part of it was just the fact that these new platforms and the social space allowed viewers to feel like they weren't being just told what to watch and what to like.
Right.
Whereas in the sort of olden days of there was only a handful of record labels and only a handful of new artists a year, you know, you had to turn on MTV and be told, okay, these are the people that I'm being shown, so I have to like one of these.
Right.
Whereas with the social platforms, you are way more able to find and choose and take ownership as a fan and as a viewer of who you're watching. So I don't just have to follow who I'm told to watch, but I found this person that is actually speaks very specifically to me, and I can connect on them in a way more personal level without a middleman. And I think that's how I've built that sort of connection, is that when they see a video of mine and when they hear a song of mine, it hasn't been filtered through a bunch of people saying, okay, it should be like this, and this is the marketing, and here's the money. It feels very real because it is, because I'm the one who's sitting behind the thing, producing it and editing it.
It's your work.
And so I think that builds such a stronger relationship ultimately with fans.
Very nice.
So, because, you know, I'd rather have 10 fans who are really a part of my journey and really excited about what I'm doing than 100 fans that don't really care, that just kind of like your music but don't care. Because ultimately, it's gonna be way more beneficial in the long run to have those fans that really care and are invested in you. Because that's where the value lies.
It's what we call having advocate fans.
Yeah.
Right? Amazing. All right, Sam. Now, becoming a YouTube sensation, 3 million followers. I mean, I keep saying that because it's really, I mean, I've met so many young people here in Malaysia on the streets, and when they hear that Sam Tsui is coming to Malaysia, like, oh my God, right? And I even get that when I go back to my office.
Aww.
Now, being a YouTube sensation, it would also mean that you are also now being looked upon, especially by the millennials generation, by the younger generation, as a leading figure. Like they would look up to you as a role model. So here's my next question. Part of being a leader is able to portray certain characteristics which are cherished by your followers. Sure. So if you're able to name the top 3 characteristics which you have, that you have shown to your followers over the years that have managed to build you as a fan favorite, one of YouTube's largest stars today, what would those 3 characteristics be, in your opinion? You live and breathe and walk it.
I think that's a great question, and I think there are a lot of sort of stars that have come up in the social media world that aren't the greatest role models, honestly. You know, and I think it's easy to get these platforms, and while the great thing about, as I said, having these platforms without middlemen is that anyone can kind of sort of make it,
put up a content.
That means that there are some role models that maybe aren't espousing the best quality. So I try to be in that space. I try to be a good role model. And
you are.
I hope that and I think that's an important thing to note, is that I think that it runs the gamut in terms of people who found success in this platform. But I think one thing is my sort of the artistry and my love of what I do. I think that's really important. Like
that's contagious as well, right?
Well, like I said, I think it's easy to chase virality and to chase views, but I think one thing that I hope my fans really connect with is the fact that I what's at the core of what I do, which is the music, is something that I genuinely love and have a real appreciation for, and a work ethic for too. You know, I didn't get into this to get rich quick. You know what I mean? I got into this because I love what I do.
And there's a lot of hard work as well.
Yeah, a lot of hard work.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. I think gratefulness is something that I like to make sure my fans know I have. I think it's easy when you get a little bit of success to feel entitled. Yeah. And that's something that I try never to feel. Being on tour internationally and getting flown around and doing these things with brands is something that will never get old, and something I will never feel like I am owed. Is something that I will always feel like I have to work for, and I think that's a really important part. And gratefulness, of course, for also, again, the fact that the reason I get to do all these things is because because there are people who are supporting my music still.
That's right.
It doesn't just come from me. It's really a two-way street.
Very nice.
And the last thing that I try to exude is a sort of a positiveness and a community spirit. I think that's the other thing that the internet does great is
you build a tribe, as they say.
You can find people who outside of just your geographic bounds, who you can connect with in a really global way that we've never been able to do before without these tools. And so my fans call themselves the Samily. Okay. Which I love because it really, I really do feel strongly that through my music and through my channels online, I like to start a dialogue and build a sense of community and a family and a place where people can go and feel that they belong, even though they might not have that in their immediate environment. So that's important to me.
You know, Sam, you have just mentioned 3 key points again. Number 1, love what you do, but knowing that when you love what you do, it also comes with a lot of hard work.
Yeah.
I mean, off the camera, I was sharing with Sam earlier saying that, wow, all his videos go viral, but you also shared with me that you did have videos in the past that did not.
Oh, still today. Not every video goes viral by any stretch of the imagination.
You know? No. But it didn't stop you at all.
No.
You didn't think like, oh man, how do I manipulate the situation? There's no manipulation because you're just expressing who you really are.
Yeah.
And fans just buy into it because they could see your sincerity.
Yeah, and I think that's allowed me to, a lesson I've learned is to not be too precious about any one given thing. So I put out a lot of videos, and you know, if every time one didn't go viral, I was like, that's the end, I'm done. That would not be a healthy attitude. I think it's about creating something, loving it, and then letting it go and moving on to the next thing. And that's something I've really learned. That each new thing is just a new thing, and not to be too focused or precious about the success of any one given piece of content.
Interesting. And of course, the second point you mentioned was gratitude. Being grateful for the people who have supported you. Remember that when we were at the bottom, who was there with us? And then when they picked us up, you know, just be grateful when we're there. And it's now our time to bless and help others, I would say. And the third thing you mentioned that was really powerful, that was building a community. In the sense where it's not just about you going out there and becoming the best, it's how do you help others to become the best as well.
Never just about you,
you know? Sam, thank you so much. Now, our last question for you. It's about the future.
Okay.
So for this, I would really want to invite you to just talk to our learners right here. What are the top 3 advice that you would give anyone that would come up to you right now and said, Sam, I'm living my life. What would be your 3 advice for me to improve anything in my life, to improve my career, improve my confidence, improve my charisma? What would be your 3 advice? I want you to share it with all the learners right now.
3 things. Okay, I would say the first one would be own your uniqueness. I think it's easy, regardless of what you're talking about, whether it's creative, whether it's personal, there's a real instinct that is very human to want to be like someone else, or to see something and say, I want to be like that, and to be ashamed of what makes you different or what makes you unique. But I think the older I get and the wiser I get, the more I realize that the things that ultimately allow you to be successful are the things that make you different, because there are so many people in this world. And if you're like everyone else, that inherently, by definition, you're not going to be able to stand out and make a mark and sort of rise to the top. So, and it can be scary, I think, to own what makes you different, because you're becoming vulnerable. Yeah. But ultimately, I think that's what you have to do to be able to stand out and find success, is to own what makes you different. And that applies professionally, personally, all of that, I think, is really important.
Is to be comfortable under your own skin.
Not always easy to do, but really, I think, really beneficial to work on. I think the second thing would be to work on yourself, and to know that you're always a student, no matter how old you get, how established you get, how much you think you know. You never know it all, and we are always learning. We are always students. So to never lose that desire to improve and learn. In whatever way that means, again, both personally and professionally.
Yes.
And finally, I would say never to take anything too seriously. Obviously, work hard and focus, and taking things seriously when they matter. But then also I think the ability to then take a step back from that and never let yourself get too, to let your own sense of self get too entangled with whatever you're working on. So in the moment when you're working on it, yes, let that be your world. But then when it's done or when it's time to take a step back from that, letting yourself actually do that, I think is so important, because I think you can so easily lose yourself a little bit in a sense of desiring self-worth from what you're doing, and remembering, you know, we only have one life, and I think you have to have a humor and a joy about what you're doing, in addition to taking it seriously when you need to, but not letting that destroy you.
You only live once, right? As they say, YOLO. There you go. Sam,
so let yourself enjoy it.
Thank you so much, really, for your time. It's been amazing. You know, I'm pretty sure all your messages, not only to our learners, but all our viewers out there who are actually watching, taking notes as well. Sam Tsui, YouTube sensation, internet celebrity, all the way from the United States, here in Malaysia. And we're very honored to have you.
I'm honored
and I'm
to
pretty
be here.
sure
Thanks for
your
having me.
messages will inspire them. Would have given them some tangible notes as well on how they can improve themselves consistently and to not be so serious in life.
You know,
find that joy, that humor, go out, treat yourself. I mean, you're already treating yourself by enrolling in this masterclass. Thank you again so much. Sam, thank you.
Of course.
I'm going to bring Sam for some crab dinner after this. Thank you again, guys. So this is Michael Teo here, founder of Thriving Talents, reporting off from the set of the Influence Mastery Summit. Thank you again, Sam.
Of course. Thank you so much.
Thank you.